Hi, Kate. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So, for those that watching at home, Kate, you run a landscaping design business.
Yep, I do. Yeah, soul to soil landscape design.
Wonderful.
Here in,
People,
here in Canberra and the surrounding region.
wonderful. So, what we're having a bit of a chat before about is people are home now and they've got a bit more time, and either they're sort of looking. We're going to have a talk about two areas. People are either looking more at their home garden and thinking, what can we do to make the most of this, or maybe it's got a bit overrun. And secondly, for those people in apartments, we'll have a bit of a chat about what services you can offer for them as well. I guess
Yeah.
we might start with the first one. So you offer landscape designs for people either, I guess, if they've got new properties and they've just moved in and it's a blank canvas, or even for people who, maybe in the older established suburbs and, have got a 40-year-old garden that maybe they want to make a bit more better use of.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I've actually had quite a number of inquiries coming through from the north side in terms of new properties which are coming through, especially in Denman Prospect, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely in terms of that, and also quite a number of inquiries coming through now because I think people are at home and they're looking at their backyards or their front yards going, well, maybe I should put some effort into creating a space that they probably thought that they were enjoying from time to time, the fact that they were going to work every day. But now that they're at home, that emotional value of them looking at their windows pretty much 24/7 for most of us, they're sort of realizing, well, let's do something that's a little bit inspirational so that it gives us an emotional bond with the outside and the inside. But yeah, no, definitely both in terms of that. When it comes to established homes, it's generally clients who are looking to refresh, or it's clients that have bought an existing property and they've come into the property and they've decided, well, look, I want to entertain more. I've got kids. I need to allocate space for my children, depending on whether they're young children or up to the teens. When it comes to that sort of scenario, you need to be really clever in how you can integrate those spaces functionally as well as aesthetically in a format that's going to work. Now, obviously, with my profession, that's what I do from a day-to-day basis. But look, people have got the opportunity now to be able to start little bits and pieces and writing things down and getting an idea of what they actually want to achieve or how they want to function, I think is the most important thing, how they want to function in either their front yard or their backyard. Everyone has a huge focus on their backyard, but your front yard is just as important because as you're driving home each day or even as you're leaving home, it does have that sense. You do get that sense of home when you've got something that you've built yourself or you've had someone come in and build it for you. So yeah, no, definitely.
No, totally agree. I think what the reports are showing that people are home and they're starting to do a lot of a DIY. And I guess now when they're home and they've got that time in the garden, it's a really good time if they're looking at maybe doing a big overhaul to get someone like yourself out to, sit down and run through what their plans are and goals so that they make the most of this time and they don't sort of, I know if I was to be let loose in my garden, I probably would, have the best plan, unlike you.
Well, it can be rewarding if you do it yourself, 100%. But at the same time, it really depends what the outcome is that you want. I say to people, go for it, take some risks. Your garden is a place that is ever changing. It's never stagnant. So even if someone like myself came in and did a design for you and then one of my landscape contractors come in and actually construct the actual design to completion, what I generally do with my designs is I allow that personal aspect into the design so that later on clients can come in at a later stage and stamp their own personality or their own emotional value into what is their space. I've got a client at the moment, they've got a very small, it was a knockdown rebuild, and so we've got 2 houses on the one block in one of the more traditional suburbs of Canberra, and so their block size is substantially smaller than most, because you've got 2 houses on the one property line. But we've incorporated a really functional area in such a tight space, but at the same time I've allocated sections of the garden where we've not done nothing, but we've allocated space so that they can come in at another time, and whether they're at Bunnings or at Pialigo or any other, even if they're travelling to Sydney or anywhere else where they come across some installations, whether it be sculptures or water features or even pots for that matter, they can stamp their own authority and their own personality into the garden by putting those in place. And it's just a really effective way of keeping the style that they want, but adding their own personal touches to it at the same time.
Wonderful. And another one we wanted to touch on is for those people who don't have the big yards, who are in either sort of a townhouse, but mostly those in apartments. So those who are with balconies, who maybe in this time are thinking they're going to go to Bunnings and buy a bunch of pots and fill them up with soil and sort of make a bit of a space out there. I know we've talked about it before about the risk, but also the service that you offer in terms of being able to make the best use of the space, but also allowing for those weight restrictions that you do have.
100%. Yeah, look, the first thing is be bold in your thinking. Mm-hmm. Don't think that because you've got a balcony, you can't do anything with it. Look, at the end of the day, it does rely on the size of your balcony, but there's a lot of places in Kingston Foreshore. There's one in particular that I've done a number of years ago, and it was quite a large balcony that wrapped around the corner of the building, and we came up with a fantastic design that incorporated pots that were online. We purchased them online, so we went with really modern type of pot arrangements. Now, that's not to say that you can't go to Bunnings or Pialigo in this environment that we're in now, and also get some really funky looking coloured pot arrangements. It also allows you in that sort of setting to do a espalier planting, so get your planter pots and be able to construct espalier frameworks so that you can put your jasmines or whatever else on that, so you can get some not only the colour but also get that sensory smell coming through from your balcony into your indoors as well. But look, at the end of the day, it is about being bold and taking some risks in that environment and using the space effectively to allow a functional sort of space in order for people to be able to still be able to move around and enjoy it without too much clutter. That, the terminology less is more, and that really does come into play with these type of designs. But the biggest thing and a stickler for me is the weight. So you have to make sure that you've got lightweight pots and you've got lightweight installations, because there is risk of putting too much weight on the balconies. There's some areas around Canberra where I go for walks and I cringe at what I see on balconies with gym equipment and that sort of thing.
Yep.
I'm just waiting for the day where we have a catastrophic event in that scenario. That's why, for me, it's paramount. It's if you're having a list of things that you're ticking off in order to create a fantastic balcony, weight is at the top of the list when it comes to these sort of designs. Whereas your general outdoor front yard, backyard, no, that's not your priority. You've got other things that are priorities. But no, that's 100% at the top of the list for that one.
You're right. And that's where you can come in and meet with them. I know that we're talking for people at the moment, whether they're trying to reduce contact or are self-isolating, that, you know, they can reach out to you through, we'll put your contact details through Facebook or email, but they can reach out to you, explain where they are, and then you're able to do, you know, probably say a virtual consult to give them an idea and look into those allowances for weight so that, you know, they don't go over. And
100%. Yeah, look, I am doing, it really depends on the client at the moment. I've got a client that I'm seeing next week where I will be visiting him on site. It's a brand new development, so there will be that distancing, 1.5 distancing scenario that both myself and the client are going to have to take into consideration. I had a client last week who I had to present their design to them. Now, they're in the health industry, so for both of us, it just didn't seem sensible that we even do the 1.5 distancing scenario. So I sent through the design, and they were able to look at it as a PDF on their screen, and we went through. It was the preliminary start of the design. It wasn't the final, so we were able to go through the initial concept of the design and then make changes along the way. But that worked quite effectively. I gave them a couple of days to review it, as opposed to me just turning up on the day and going through it with them at that point in time. I gave them a couple of days to go through it. So when I did ring them and we were doing an audio together, it just made it a lot easier to have an understanding of what we were talking about point by point with the actual design itself. But look, there is ways around these things. It's just being a bit creative in how you approach them. So
brilliant. Well, there's some great tips. We'll put your contact details when we share this interview so that people can reach out, whether they're in an apartment or they're in an established home or building something new, and have a chat to you about how to make the most of that outdoor space. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you very much for having me.